So I really started to feel God and really understand His love, and I thought, gosh, I've been missing out on this for a really long time. Yes, of course, we had problems, like every relationship. He did not like the fact that I had previous boyfriends at all. That was something that we kind of had to get through. We had many an argument. I mean, I wished I had never met a man before him, but that just wasn't the case, and he had wished the same. Didn't like the... a few arguments, just a few. Didn't like that I hadn't always made the right decisions. I hadn't, and like I said, being raised, my parents are wonderful. I was raised with the most loving two parents in the world. The one thing I do, like I said, I missed was just the faith base, and that we weren't all on the same page about our religion and our faith, and that is something that I wish I could have had a little bit more. He didn't like the fact that I worked with men, which I did then, I still do, I always will if I remain in this vocation. That was difficult for him. When I would travel, we'd go out for group meals with the producers, directors, and they were all men. They probably will always be men. You got a few females thrown in there, but he didn't like that, and we had to work through that. That was just something he thought, well, you are one day going to be my wife. We weren't engaged yet. That's coming. But he didn't really like that, and we had to work through that. So we had our struggles. I'm not saying by any means we had this perfect relationship. We had some issues, but I had to maneuver that because I wanted to honor him, and I had never dealt with that before. I thought, well, they're people I work with. They just happen to be men. He said, well, I can't be there to make sure you're all right, and it bothers me. It bothers me. So we worked through that. We came to an understanding. It wasn't easy, but it's what I wanted for us, so we worked together. We compromised. Started reading books on relationships based on God. He had so many books. This guy read. So I started reading them, honoring God in a relationship, and I learned so much through that. We'd read to each other, stayed up late, just learning more about living through God in a relationship, which was unbelievable to me. I learned how to forgive myself for past discussions, and he learned to forgive me too, which was something that we really had to work hard at. And finally, I forgave myself for those, and that was huge. I learned really how to appreciate the gift that was Andy and what a gift he was. I didn't feel guilty for it anymore, and he helped me through that. And it was a process, but we got through it. And I learned how to really be a good Catholic woman, really, which was the biggest gift. I hadn't really, like I said, grasped the role that God had in my life growing up, and I finally had through him. I respected myself and carried myself in a fashion that God would love and God would appreciate. When Andy was there, when Andy wasn't there, just all the time, I really started honoring Andy and honoring the Lord at the same time. Going to communion, giving communion at hospices, started volunteering, getting out there in the community like a lot of you do. Things like this I started doing, and my life changed. It was just, I was the same person, but I was a better person, and my faith was where I wished it had been all along. And God finally, really held that place in my heart that He should have, and Andy really helped me get there. Like I said, I was a bit resentful that I hadn't had that growing up, but I was really grateful that he had led me to that path, and now we were going down it together. Like I said, I wasn't a different Brooke, I was just a better Brooke. And so we lead to San Francisco on Valentine's Day. I had been waiting. This is about 2 years, and waiting for that ring. I'm sure some ladies understand that. I'd always made fun of my friends. Just give him time, don't pressure him. I was the worst. I was the pressurer. I was like just walking around, kind of just wondering what's going on with this, doing a lot of this. So we got to San Francisco. We went on our little walk that we went to a year before that day, to the day on Valentine's, the walk we all did, and he got down on his knee in this park that we went to and asked me to marry him, and it was just the most amazing moment of my life. We had a beautiful wedding, a huge, proper Catholic wedding. It was awesome, about 250 people. He played football at every level, and I'm not kidding. I think 3 of his teammates through all of his teams weren't there. It was awesome. I got to see people that I had met before that he played when he was this big, to people he had played with in the Arena League. There were so many supportive faces there, and he was beaming. It was the best night. I've really never seen him so happy. And after the wedding, I had been going back and forth with what job I wanted to take. I had an offer to go to Florida to work for CBS.com, or one to work for the Portland Trailblazers. And I thought the best decision for us would be to stay local near our families and move to Portland. But he did not. He said, no, we're starting our family. We're going to do it our way, and we're going to go to Florida. I haven't been to Florida. Me neither. We're going to Florida. So I said, okay, we're going to Florida. So just a few days after the wedding, we picked up and we moved down to Florida. Didn't have a place to live. They put us up in a hotel. And he was so excited. He was just excited for us to start our lives together as a couple and start a new family. And it was pretty amazing. So we got down to the hotel, and we were there for a few days. I went into the office to meet people. He had gone out looking for apartments. That was his gig while we were there. And it was the 6th day that we were down there. And I was in a meeting in the lobby with a couple people from work, and we were going to go out for a dinner just to meet everyone and mingle. And he had gone to the gym. Like I said, he was such an athlete, such a good work ethic. Went to the gym every day. Epitome of health. And as I'm waiting in the lobby, I saw some sirens outside. I didn't think much of it, and then I just had a weird feeling. So I went up to the room. He was going to go to the room and change. I had ironed a shirt for him, left it out, and I knocked, and no one answered. Opened the door. The shirt was still there, and at that moment my phone rang, and it was a man. It was an EMT saying, "I have Andy's phone. Do you know Andy?" I said, "Yes, I'm his wife. Where is he?" And they said he had a heart attack on the treadmill, and we're currently taking him to the hospital. So I ran outside. There was a fire truck still there. I jumped in it. They took me to the hospital, walked in. I don't remember all of it. I remember walking in and seeing him, going up and trying to be near him. They moved me away, put me in a different room, tried to get to him, and they kept me a ways, but I could see him. And I was obviously in shock, and I go in and out. I black out at certain things, but the last thing I remember was seeing a priest walk into the room, and that's when they came in and told me that he had passed away on the treadmill. He had a heart attack, and they did everything they could. Someone was in the room. They tried to resuscitate him. They couldn't. They tried at the hospital. They did everything they could. But he passed away at the age of 26 on the treadmill from a heart attack, which I'll get into later about avoiding that, because that's now become another message of mine. The first thing that happened, my mom and my aunt came. I remember waking up. They put me out to see them. They took me on a plane back home. I don't remember any of that. I went to my mom's house. They put me in the guest room. I was in there for a month. I don't remember much, and every time I did wake up, I just wanted to go back to sleep. I was numb. I was in shock. I couldn't believe what had happened. When I would wake up, I would hope, think, and believe it was a dream. And then I'm sure many of you have gone through difficult things, losses. It's one of those things where if you think about it, you're overwhelmed. So you try to say it didn't happen. You tell yourself this didn't happen, but you have to face it. And for the longest time, I was just numb and in shock, and I just didn't want to face anything. I didn't want to face that it even happened. A lot of numbness, definitely a lot of shock. Finally, after that month, just laying there, I had to start the realization that this had happened. I was very angry. I was sad. I was in shock. I had every emotion that you could imagine when something like that happens. But the first thing, and I'm not an angry person, I'm a very happy person, I've always have been, I had never been so angry, so mad in my entire life. I just finally found this man that I knew was the right man for me. He was going to be my husband, the father of my children. He had brought me back to this path, to the woman I wanted to be, and then he was stripped of me, just taken, just days after we had really begun our life together. I'd lost all of those things in an instant, and I was mad. I was really mad. I was mad at God. I was mad at you. I was mad at you. I was mad at everyone. I was just mad, and I couldn't figure out really what to do. With my family and friends, of course, were amazing, and when you go through something like that, they come out of the woodwork. They're so supportive, and mine were the same. They really were my saving grace. Their love, their prayers, notes. They kind of got me back on the road to I need to get out of this bed. I need to figure out what is next. My faith, though, which was the most disappointing part for me, that was what was hit the hardest. I was so frustrated that I really then ended up losing all the faith that I had really gained and that I felt so good about. I didn't read those prayer cards that Andy and I had read together. I stopped reading the Bible. Church to me now was a sad reminder, because it becomes such a great place for me to go. We always went together, and I loved being there, and now walking into it scared me because he wasn't there by my side. It was a reminder of him now. And so everything that was so good when he was with me was now a sad reminder to me. The Psalms and all those religious poems that we had read that were everywhere, all in my car, and everywhere. I took them down. I didn't want to see them because they just reminded me of him. So I had to come to terms with it. Like I said at one point, I needed to come to terms. I needed to move on. I needed to figure out how I could